Привіт! I'm Chuck Linek, a Ukrainian-American baptized with the name Yaroslav, and that's the name I use in the Society for Creative Anachronism, where I'm known as Yaroslav the Persistent, or Yari. And I've been putting together all sorts of stuff on my channel about Slavic and Eastern European folklore and mythology. I'm trying to stretch my boundaries a little by getting past Ukrainian and Russian stuff. So I kind of found a topic to tie a few things together. It's on snakes. So there's a common belief in Eastern Europe and in the Baltic lands that snakes around the house are a good thing. Commonly living in a hole in the wall or under a threshold, or they might be living by the stable or in the stables themselves. Of course, you can do the math on that as to they're keeping down the population of the rats and the mice, all right, which is always a problem on a farm. That didn't really matter to my mom, who grew up on a farm in Ukraine. She had a snake, harmless snake, wrap around her leg while she was a teenager, and she freaked out a lot, and that instilled a lifelong loathing of snakes, so that when I brought home a snake to keep as a pet, she said, "Oh, hell no, get that out of the house." Okay, my mom aside, some people brought milk to these snakes, and many even fed them regularly as pets. And even if you didn't bring them things, you certainly didn't want to drive them out or cause them harm. Amongst the Slavs, the Slovaks in particular, told tales of showing them respect as if the snake was the master and protector of the house. You can go back to Oleg, who died in 912 and who was mentioned in the primary chronicle. It's stretching it a bit, but there's still a respect for snakes. There was the story that he was warned that his favorite horse would be the death of him. So, to defy the prophecies, Oleg sent the horse away, because we know defying prophecies works. Many years later, he asked where his horse was and was told it had died. He asked to see the remains and was taken to the place where the bones lay. So, of course, he had to reassure himself physically, and he touched the horse's skull with his boot, and a snake slithered from the skull and bit him. Oleg died, thus fulfilling the prophecy. Oleg's death has been interpreted as a distorted variant of the threefold death theme in a lot of Indo-European myth and legend, with prophecy, the snake, and the horse representing the three functions. The prophecies associated with sovereignty, all right, he's a prince. The horse with warriors, and the serpent with reproduction. Boy, that one's a little obvious. Back to the Slovakian stuff. All right, as I was saying, there are tales amongst the Slovaks who believe that if one killed one of these grass snakes or green snakes, that basically within the year you're going to die. And there's been a bunch of accounts that I read of someone saying, this happened to a family member, or I knew a man who killed a snake in a shed. Within the year he was dead. From what I remember of the story, my grandfather, he's the one on the right, patiently unwrapped the snake from my mom's leg and set it free. However, my mom wanted nothing to do with snakes after that. The idea was that, in some ways, like the domovik, Russians would say domovoy, the snake was the guardian and protector of the family. In Slovak culture, it was believed that the mere touch of one of these grass snakes, these green snakes, was beneficial. Wounds would suddenly become healed. Cows became easier to milk. Girls learned how to skillfully embroider. And there was a similar belief in Bulgaria. So now we go over to the Balkans. Right? According to Bulgarian belief, if a person caught a grass snake with their bare hands on St. George's Day, he need not fear getting a fever for the rest of the year. So that must have been an interesting way to pass St. George's Day. Another thing from Bulgaria, there was a fairy tale about how a shepherd, he saved a grass snake from a fire, and the grateful snake was so grateful he carried the shepherd to his father, who was the master of all snakes, and he was the keeper of treasures. And the master of snakes was so grateful that he offered all sorts of treasure to the shepherd, but the shepherd refused the treasures, but asked instead to understand the language of animals. Okay, so we've gone from Slovakia to the Balkans. Now we're going to go up to the Baltics and check out the snake lore there, because you can see the snake is kind of winding through all these areas, and so is the folklore. Žaltys, literally grass snake, is a household spirit in Lithuanian mythology. There's contradictions as to who the Žaltys is sacred to. Some say the grass snake, the Žaltys, was a sacred animal of the sun goddess Saule, and was considered a guardian of the home and a symbol of fertility. People used to keep it as a pet by the stove or other special area of the house, believing it would bring good harvest and wealth. Killing a Žaltys was said to bring great misfortunes upon the household. If a Žaltys was found in the field, people gave it milk, attempting to befriend the creature and make it a sacred household pet. Okay, so the Baltic ideas are not radically different from the Slavic ideas. There's nothing really new or shocking there. There is another goddess that the Žaltys is associated with. According to legend, the Žaltys was a symbol of fertility and prosperity. Okay, that's not new, and was often associated with the goddess of love and beauty, Laima. In Lithuanian culture, it was believed that the Žaltys would bring good luck and fortune to those who treated it with respect and kindness. Oh, why not? Let's just add to the confusion. In Lithuanian, it's Žaltys. In Latvian, it's Zalktis. And in Latvian mythology, Laima and her sisters, Karta and Dekla, were a trinity of fate deities. Think like the Norse Norns or the Greek Morai. Laima makes the final decision on an individual's fate, so Laima gets to be more popular. While all three of them had similar functions, Dekla was in charge of children, Karta holds control over the adult's life. Laima is also associated with mothers. So, like a snake, we wound our way through Slovakia, the Balkans, the Baltics, and even revisited a bit of the primary chronicle. Well, until the next time, do pobачення.